Well, good morning. We're back in Middle Earth, and today is the Baggins' birthday. So, this is an auto bestow quest, which means when you log in, you'll automatically see it in this tracker here, and you have 5 minutes to accept it. If you choose to. If you don't, it goes away. But we want to take this quest, so with Frodo and Bilbo Baggins' birthdays close at hand, Frodo is looking for an adventurer to assist him with a surprise for his Uncle Bilbo. Travel to Rivendell to assist Frodo with his plans. So the first thing we get to do is go to Rivendell. And if you remember, we do have a very fast way to go to Rivendell. It is via Gandalf the Grey and the Prancing Pony. So we are going to head over to Bree to go talk to Mr. Gandalf and ask him very politely to please send us to Rivendell. We are in Rivendell. And we need to go talk to Frodo Baggins, who is at the last homely house. We also need to pause. And which one are we thinking? The road to Erebor. We need to go ahead and cancel that one, so that the next time we need to come to Rivendell, we can once again take that. And we're going to pause here for just a moment. Okay, so we're back. And we are headed up to Elrond's house to go speak to Frodo Baggins and find out exactly what it is he wants to do for his uncle's birthday. And of course, we're here, so we might as well take a look at the last homely house. That's very pretty. I would say the structures in Rivendell actually look better than the ones in Galadriel's kingdom, Lothlorien. Really do like that. Now, when we go inside, you'll see that part of the interior of this building is actually not an interior at all. This looks very beautiful. There are trees growing. There's all sorts of things going on here. You look up. This is all open to the sky right here. So it's basically a interior courtyard. And we need to go find Frodo. Well, it's probably in Bilbo's room. At least that's where he usually is. And it looks like several people have decided to do this. Hello, Frodo.
Hello.
Hello. Ah, you're here to assist with my birthday surprise for Uncle Bilbo.
Please, stay a moment.
I'm glad you're here. I'm in need of an adventurer such as yourself to help with a birthday surprise for my Uncle Bilbo. When Bilbo decided to resettle in Rivendell, he did it in typical fashion, as you may have heard, with a bang and a finish, disappearing right during his own birthday party. In that moment, Bilbo instantly became the subject of many a tall tale and increasingly exaggerated legend. I know he'd be amused to no end to hear these stories, but I myself can't go collect them. The next time you're in the Shire, could you do this for me? Were I you, I'd start at the Gaffer. He hears most everything worth hearing, and he will surely know who you should talk to in order to obtain the very best tale. Alright, so now we have to go back to back to the Shire and speak to Gaffer Gamgee over in Hobbiton. Okay. Don't usually get lost in the middle of the house, but I guess I got a little distracted and decided I must be on the second floor instead of the first. Oops. Alright, so while we're up here, I don't think... Yeah, we did get this stable here already, I'm pretty sure. Well, we have to go that way anyway. We got this beautiful bridge here that really doesn't do anything except cross a little gap, which you can cross anyway. Now that bridge does something. This little spot is called the Spire of Meeting. And we got 2 more bridges here. We're going to take this one, because it's a little closer to the stables. At least I always found this one to be just a tiny bit closer. Beautiful place. I mean, if this was like an honest God real place, I could see this as being a very desirable location to want to visit or even live in. Beautiful stables. I like the stable master's
What
outfit.
do you need?
Alright, so we want to go. Do we have a stable to the Shire from this? Cannot remember if we do. Lowlands, Misty Mountains, North Downs, Troshaws. No, we do not have one to the Shire. And it looks like we do not even have one to Breland yet, because we can't do that until level 40. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Alright, so I guess we're going to go to Oscaruth, and then go to Bree, and then go to the Shire. We are now at Hobbiton, and we are with the Gaffer. We've even changed our outfits to celebrate this festive occasion. Alright, Gaffer, what have you to say for yourself?
Is there something I can do for you?
Why, hello. Frodo sent you to talk to me then. What's the young fry up to now?
Don't walk off. I need to speak
So,
with you.
you're here to collect stories about Bilbo Baggins, are you? Heard that I would know who to talk to? Naturally, you're correct. Give me a moment, and I'll write you down a list of likely hobbits to speak to. Mind you, you'll need to catch them at just the right time. If they don't seem to have a story for you, check back on them in a while. If you want to hear every story, you'll need to have some perseverance. Okay. And we need to speak to him again now.
What do you need?
Right then. Here's the list. You'll want to give it a quick look to make sure you can read my handwriting. So, and here's the Gaffer's note. Yes, we can kind of read your handwriting, Gaffer.
Just a moment.
That note makes sense then. Were I you, I'd probably start by talking to Ted Sandyman. I'd just follow the road out to the east, then turn south. Ted's standing just south of the Bywater Bridge. I know Ted's got time now, so he'll be happy to share his story. Just remember that not every hobbit on that list will have a story to share whenever you please. Just check back on them from time to time. You'll catch them at a good time soon enough, I'm sure. Now, I think they have changed this quest because it used to be you could you had to figure out which two hobbits were telling a story at any time, and then you had to wait. Was it like an hour or so before you could find the next two? And sometimes the next two might have included one that you'd already spoken to, and it could seriously take some time to talk to everybody. I think they've changed it so that they don't have that requirement anymore. And God, that is so adorable. Now, you know, this little tiny thing here is not all there is to this burrow. Maybe it is, because, I mean, it is right over the water. Maybe? I want to say that it wouldn't be all there is. Cute little patio in the back. I want to say that this has got to go off this way into the hill. Because that's too small otherwise, even for just a say a waypoint. Alright, but enough staring at the architecture. We're here to see Ted Sandyman.
Might I have a word with you?
Surely I'll tell you a tale of Bilbo Baggins and the disappearing act he pulled at his birthday party all those years ago. Just lend me your ear for a moment. All those years ago. I guess it's been a while since he did that.
It's been a foul day, it has.
Well now, what I heard is that Bilbo had just about had it on his birthday. So many people, all of them bickering and squawking and trying to sneak into Bag End and look for treasure. Anyone would grow weary and want to be done with it. Bilbo was already an unconventional hobbit, so what I heard tell is that he decided to give everyone a good scare and sneak away. Went to go enjoy himself where all his family wasn't, and went round to all the taverns and inns trying their brew. Now, from what I hear tell, no one's quite sure what really happened after that, but my brother's son's friend's cousin works down at the Green Dragon, and he swears he shipped off a barrel that was heavier than the others the next day, and that it rolled funny like something was in it. Didn't think to question it until after the fact. My guess is that Bilbo enjoyed himself a bit too much, found himself in a cozy barrel, and got shipped off. Goodness only knows where he is now. I wonder what interesting brews he's gotten to try in far-flung lands. Okay, so Ted's stretching quite a yarn there. Although that yarn is at least within the realm of plausibility. It seems to take a few pages out of The Hobbit there, particularly with hiding in the barrel. It is funny. All right, now what we got here? So as you can see, we got Postman Grub, we got Dudo Chub, Hal Hornblower over here, and Bogo Chub, which is Dudo's brother, of course. And it looks like they all do have rings up. Now, I don't think we're just going to sit here and read every single story right off the bat right now, because there's quite a few stories to read. But we're going to start with Postman Grub here. Looking for stories about Bilbo, are you now? Well, as postman, I know most people and hear most things. I can certainly spare the time to tell you a tale.
Hello.
So you're wanting to know where Bilbo has got himself off to? Well, if you ask around these parts, folks will tell you all kinds of nonsense. He got kidnapped, or is flying his own dragon, or is leading a fighting tribe of spiders. The gullibility of hobbits is sometimes not to be believed. They'll latch on to any story they hear, and the more exotic the better. Can you imagine Bilbo doing any of those things at his age? Gracious, he's a unique sort of hobbit, but he's got his limits. I can see you're the sensible sort, so I'll tell you the real truth. Bilbo always had a terrible fondness for elves. Downright unsettling, if you ask me, but he was never one to hold with convention. Anyway, he decided to spend the rest of his days with them, invited by that elvish leaders and all. He spent his declining years living with them and enjoying their hospitality, all while writing his memoirs in the form of a one-act play. Where there's smog, there's fire. I hear that the Buckland benefit of the Benevolent Bucket Brigade Brotherhood for the Bruised and Burned has exclusive rights for the opening. Right off the bat, we have somebody that has part of the truth. And of course, it's the postman. Well, thank you, Postman Grub, for your tale. Now, we are going to go up the road and see Lobelia and her son while we can. We'll listen to her whine, and then we can enjoy the rest of the stories. And there's Lotho, her son, and there's Lobelia herself.
What do you want?
Oh, you're wondering what Mad Baggins has been up to. Ha ha, he was all elevenses and no sense, if you ask me. I know a right amusing story of what mischief he's gotten himself into, I surely do.
Why are you bothering me?
Well now, last I heard is that old Baggins has completely squandered his fortunes, although I never have myself believed it was half as big as folks said. So it wouldn't be that hard to lose now, would it? But as I was saying, with his fortune gone, I hear he went into one of those big folk towns and got himself the finest fake beard that the remainder of his money could buy. Now, don't start laughing at. You ain't heard the rest of it, and you remember what I said about him being too clever without much sense. Well, false beard obtained, he went to live with the dwarves. Yes, dwarves. Snuck right in there with them in their caves, and they're digging. Dwarves aren't too smart from what I've heard, and those caves gotta be mighty shadowy and smoky from the torches, don't you think? Figure with his beard and he can hide and work right alongside them, all while slowly building up new fortune, a pocket at gems and fine metals. I bet he'll be back again, lording his adventures and supposed fortunes over us once more. Well, somebody's sounding a little salty there, isn't he? I have listened to Lotho Sackville Baggins' story. Yes, I've listened to the guy grouse. And now it's Lobelia's turn.
Don't you turn your back on me.
Ooh, all anyone talks about around here is Bilbo Baggins. But as it happens, yes, I do know quite a juicy bit of information that I don't mind sharing with a person such as yourself. Listen up now, and you might learn something worth knowing. Earlier that day, the day of the party, that is, I'll have you know that I saw Bilbo sampling a good many of Polly Hornblower's pies. They always look delectable, but I swear she uses secret ingredients that would put off even the staunchest eater. Not that I'm jealous, mind. My pies always come in second, and I have an easy mind knowing they are made of only the finest fruits, not any new nonsense I hear tell of, not like some people I know. And if that's good enough for me, well, pardon me, what was I saying? Right, Mr. Bilbo. As I was saying, I heard that Holly was experimenting with sneaking in ground-up mushrooms pinched from Farmer Maggot's field. If you listen to the young fry about these parts who've snuck into his field and eaten some, you know they have some awful queer effects. So if you want to know what I think, and you clearly do as you're asking me, well, I think eating those pies up and disappeared Bilbo. Good thing that old Gandalf was around to cover it up with a poof of smoke and save us all the scandal, although some might think that there could have been an important lesson to be learned had he not. All right, Whiny. All right, so we talked to Miss Whiny and her son, or Mr. Whiny and his mother. It depends. They're both not the nicest hobbits in town. And we are going to pause because we still have quite the number of stories to read, and I'm going to need a quick break for something to drink. So, be right back. All right, we are back, and we are going to continue seeking out hobbits with fantastical stories about Bilbo Baggins' 111th birthday. So, we have talked to the postman, we talked to Lathilia and her son, and we've spoken to Ted Sandyman. So, next up, we will talk to Dudo Chubb here.
Hello there.
Oh, collecting stories about Bilbo Big Shot Baggins, eh? More than enough of those to go around, to be sure. Luckily for you, I happen to know the truth of the matter of that odd disappearance act he pulled at the party. Yes, I do. Oh, well, why don't you enlighten us, Dudo?
Oh, good day.
As I was saying, here's what happened at that birthday party of Bilbo's. You see, when he was on his adventures, he met up with a pile of dwarves. Yes, dwarves. Anybody who knows anything knows that some of them dwarves got mighty peculiar after losing their home in the mountains far off all that long time ago. Since then, stories say, some of them have been known to be a Roman band doing nearly anything to squeak by, and that would breed loose morals if you ask me. Assuming they ever had any to start with, can't ever be sure with people not of the Shire. No, you cannot. I heard that one of these dwarves helped Bilbo dig a complex of tunnels under Bag End, and he simply popped down into these at the opportune moment. Goodness only knows what he's been up to since, but you can bet it's something no respectable hobbit would be caught a-doing. Okay, so he thinks Bilbo has a complex set of tunnels under his house, and that he disappeared into them at his birthday party. But the only thing he got right was that Bilbo took up with some dwarves in his adventure. Now we're going to talk to his brother here, Bogo Chubb.
Stay and have
Bilbo
some tea.
Baggins you're asking about, eh? Most folks think he's off gallivanting goodness knows where, but I've got quite a different story to tell you if you'll listen. I'm all ears.
Good day.
So, you're wondering what Bilbo's been up to since he disappeared, eh? Well, as it happens, I heard that he's not in some far-off land at all. He's still right here in the Shire. That whole party business was an elaborate ruse to set people talking and murmuring and thinking that he's off in some far land, having more adventures. That was just Bilbo's way of creating a distraction while he crept away to hide in plain sight. Folks say that at night you can sometimes see him, clothed in black, face hidden behind a dark mask, with an even darker cape, all flapping and flowing behind him, riding along the roads of the Shire. He's turned vigilante, protecting us all from bandits and goblins and anything else nasty trying to creep into our towns. Bilbo's managed to stay out of sight so well due to his hidden hobbit holes all over the Shire. They were built in secret and paid for by his fortune, and he roams between them, never spending too much time in any one spot, always listening and waiting for danger to appear. Okay, so Bogo thinks that Bilbo Baggins has turned into Batman. Very good. Next.
Could I take a moment of your
Bilbo,
time?
eh? Now folks would tell you any nonsense about what happened to Bilbo at his birthday party, but what's the fun in that? It was all smoke and mirrors anyway, if you ask me. The real story is what happened after, which, as it happened, I know all about. Okay, Hal, you give us the tea.
Hello?
Now, I keep my ears to the ground, I do, and I can tell you with complete confidence that Bilbo went on back to the elves. He always told such stories about them, the likes of which you wouldn't believe. They say that an elf queen has been teaching him to grow the biggest taters a person could ever hope to see. Leave it to Bilbo to go all the way off to the elves to gain knowledge, just so he can steal the first prize ribbon from Farmer Maggot at one of these farmer fairs. Some folk would just try harder in their own garden plot, but Bilbo just couldn't never do anything the easy way when he could have an adventure instead. I imagine he'll be back any day to wipe that smug smirk off of old Farmer Maggot and break his 60-year winning streak. 60 years, huh? I'm just gonna go over to Farmer Maggot and get a few tips for my own potatoes. Okay, so we have talked to what, 3 of the people? 1, 2, 3. Yep, 3. And I think there's at least one more out here. We can find him or her. Oh, look at the chicken. Isn't it cute? Nope. Here's somebody. Somebody standing next to some pies. Excuse me, I'll just swipe one of those. Thank you. Okay.
Might I have a word with you?
What's that? Oh, you're wondering, well, but where Bilbo is now. Turns out you've asked the right hobbit. All right, Miss Hornblower.
Hello.
I'll have you know that I have it on excellent authority that on his travels Bilbo met a whopping massive bear. Yes, a proper large bear, not like the little ones what den around these parts. And what did Bilbo do? No, don't be silly. The bear didn't eat him in one gulp. Imagine the indigestion with all those brass buttons. Now Bilbo might not be a proper hobbit, but a hobbit still he is, and that means he was carrying any number of delicious things, the like of which the bear had never smelled or tasted before. With those clever Bilbo tamed that bear, indeed he did, and that's not the end, no, not at all. Just getting to the best part, if you'll believe it. Radagast the Brown, you've heard of him, yes? Keeper of animals, they say, and proper wizard in his own right. Well, Radagast heard about Bilbo and the bear, and he was so impressed that he trained old Bilbo to be a lore master. Neither jesting nor joking, am I? That's right. The first hobbit lore master is our Bilbo, and he rides around now on his great bear, accompanying Radagast all over the lands. Okay, so she thinks that Bilbo Baggins is off adventuring with Radagast the Brown and a bear. I can't even. I have no words for that one. Let's go into the Ivy Bush Inn and see if anybody has any tales for us in here. And indeed, we have a couple.
Hello there. Might I speak with
Ah,
you?
you're
please?
collecting stories about Bilbo Baggins? I know a grand one for you. That fellow's been some places and seen some things. Yes, he most certainly has.
A lovely
I heard
day,
that
isn't it?
Bilbo got up to a whole mess of adventures after his party, but you're wondering what he's up to now, yes? Well, I'll tell you that I've heard that in the end he ran into some of those big folk what ride horses all the time. What are they called? The Riders of Ronald? Roger? No, nearly there. Tip of my tongue. Rohan. That's it. I hear he got himself in a war pony, and that they taught him to be a proper horse master and all. Rides in the company of, drat it, what's that feller's name? Theon, no, Theron? Ah, that's not it either. Hang on, give me a minute. Theoden. That's it. That's the chappie. Our Bilbo's right there, riding in that company of big folk with banners streaming and horses whinnying all across those big plains of grass tall enough to hide a hobbit, or so I hear. Okay, that's an interesting tell.
Good day. Might I
What's
have a
that you're
word with
asking
you?
about now? Oh, Mr. Bilbo, you say? Why, certainly I know what happened at his birthday party. Listen up, and I'll tell you the true facts of the matter. Well, why don't you do that, Robin?
Good day.
Bilbo Baggins was something of an eclectic around these parts. His adventures created enough stories that you can still hear new ones every day. Why, I was just recently talking to my niece's cousin's sister-in-law's nephew the other day, and he said that he knew what really happened at that funny birthday party. All the folks in these parts attended it, but what with the food and the drink and the dancing and all the youngsters underfoot, only a few folks really witnessed the actual disappearing act. My niece's sister's cousin saw you get the picture. Oh, you get the picture. The lad I was talking with, he says that he saw that wizard Gandalf pop old Mr. Bilbo into a giant sack, just visible through the fog, he said, and Mr. Bilbo squirming and wiggling like anything. Then they just vanished into thin air. Goodness knows what happened to the poor chap after that. But honestly, with the stories folks tell about his adventures and associates and going-ons, what other end can a hobbit expect from than a sticky one? So he thinks Gandalf the Grey kidnapped Bilbo. Wow. Oh, it looks like we have, I think, at least two more here.
Might I speak with you a moment?
Bilbo Baggins could single-handedly keep me in business for years to come the way folks around here swap stories about him. I'll gladly tell you my own personal thoughts on why he disappeared from his birthday party, though. All right, Miss Storyteller.
Hello?
Some around here weren't sure about him, but I miss dear Bilbo. He always had such an air of mystery about him, which is saying something, since the only air most hobbits have about them is one of pipe weed and their last meal. Bilbo was refreshing, he was. Shook us all up some, and that's a good thing, no doubt. We need some rousing out of our usual routine. Not all of us have the constitution to be explorers, so it's a precious commodity indeed when we get a hobbit with real stories to tell. Anyway, I hear that Bilbo was getting bored, and can you blame him? So when Gandalf was setting off his lovely fireworks, Bilbo grabbed onto one and off he went, soared off into the skies in a trail of sparkle. Now shake your head if you like, but I think that Bilbo Baggins could do just nearly anything he put his mind to, and I'm not changing my story. Oh, I'd love to know where he landed and what mischief he's gotten up to since then. I surely do hope he returns home again, or I might just explode in a starburst myself from curiosity. Okay, so she thinks that Bilbo took off on a rocket into parts unknown. Dear me, the tales. I mean, everybody thinks Bilbo can do just about anything. And I think we have one more, and it's this child here. This poor child and this poor storyteller. Neither of them have gotten names. I feel bad for them.
Stay a moment.
Excuse me. What's that you're asking about? Oh, yes. I know lots of stories about Bilbo. My mum's tells me them some nights when I can't get to sleep. All right.
Hello.
My mum tells me stories about Mr. Bilbo some nights when I can't get to sleep. My favorites are the ones about the lonely mountains with the dragon and the treasure. I'd like a dragon, I think, but only a nice one, not a nasty one. My good dragon would live with me and bring us shiny things to play with, and I'd fly him around in the sky. Dragons are terrible clever, you know, and so mine would tell me stories and teach me things that only dragons know. But you know, I keep thinking about that poor mountain. Why, it's even called the Lonely Mountain, and that was when it still had a dragon friend of its own. But since Bilbo scared off the dragon, I bet that mountain is even lonelier. I feel so bad for it some nights. I just cry into my plush sheet Petunia. But then I thought about nice Mr. Bilbo, and I bet he feels the same way. I bet he went back to that poor mountain to keep it company. If I were him, I'd bring it another dragon, but a nice one this time, to keep it company for years and years and years. I bet that's just what he did. Aww. That was absolutely the cutest story ever. I'm glad I waited for that one for last. So now, we need to go see the gaffer again. I think out of all the stories, the child's story was definitely the cutest. And the postman's story was definitely the closest to the truth. But, oh my God, him flying off on a rocket, getting kidnapped by Gandalf the Grey, riding around on a bear with Radagast the Brown. Yes, indeed, there have been some stories about Bilbo Baggins. Hello, Mr. Gaffer, I have returned.
Just a moment.
You managed to speak to all the hobbits on my list, then wonderful. If that's given you what you need, off with you then. Time to take these stories to their final recipient.
Don't walk off. I need to speak
I
with
imagine those stories have someone waiting for them. Off you go now. And I believe now we need to go back to Bilbo Baggins. So, I will get over there and I will see you again in a minute. All right, we're here with Bilbo, and let's see what he has to say about the various and sundry stories told about him.
How do you do?
Why, hello. Many salutations, I'm sure. And what has brought you here to me on this fine day?
A lovely day, isn't it?
Stories from the Shire, and all of them about me. I can't wait to hear them. Please tell me your tales. So we get to wait for Bilbo's reaction to our story. I got shipped off down the river in a barrel, did I? No mystery where the origins of that story came from. And then myself, the first Hobbit lore master, traveling with Radagast himself. A terribly flattering story indeed. I must encourage the retelling of that one.
Hello there.
Oh dear, oh my. They are even better than I thought. The imagination of hobbits truly knows no bounds. The Lonely Mountain, Holly Hornblower's pies, a caped crusader even. Oh, gracious and goodness me. You have made this old hobbit very happy, and brought me belly laughs such as I have not known for a while. Elves, for all their charms, have a more esoteric form of humor. I've missed the stories hobbits tell. Take this with my thanks. Clearly you have a knack for recording and telling tales. I hope you keep that up during your adventures, as I sense you will have a great many stories to tell. And our reward is a scribe's bookstand. Well then, I'd say Bilbo Baggins was quite flattered by the stories told about him. He seemed to at least greatly enjoy them. And that ends our Baggins birthday quest. We've done what Frodo asked. We've heard a great many wonderful tales. And we've made Bilbo Baggins very happy. Next time, we will be back in the Lone Lands and back to killing wights and crows and other sundry creatures. But until then, bye for now.